Welcome, engineers. My name is Travis IQ, and today we're talking about security. Securing Bitcoin, that is. Okay, so you bought some Bitcoin, and it is now ripping. And you're going, hey, I've got some value here. And now you're concerned with securing that value. How do we secure this value? Where is this value stored? And what do these terms mean in terms of security and storage? Those are some really important things that we need to talk about, and some I didn't mention in the first video. So the first term that I want to talk about is hot wallets. A hot wallet is similar to your physical wallet, right? You carry your physical wallet with you everywhere that you go. You don't keep very much money in your physical wallet, hopefully most of the time. Why don't you do this? Because it's more likely to get taken from you. It's more likely to get stolen, misplaced, have an issue, these types of things. And when you do have a lot of money in your physical wallet, whether you're making a large purchase or doing something else with it, you feel a little bit more uncomfortable, a little bit more uneasy, right? That same principle should be applied to hot wallets in cryptocurrency. A classic example of a hot wallet is CashApp. You purchase your cryptocurrency through CashApp. CashApp sends that cryptocurrency to you over the internet, right? Via a transfer. And now you have that value associated with that wallet, which is yours. But it is connected to the internet. And if someone were to get a hold of your phone or have the ability to transfer that application and the information associated with that application, they might have access to the private key for that wallet, and they could actually transfer all that value off of that wallet. Because that private key, the wallet information, is held on the internet. So it goes with you everywhere you go. And it's also on your phone in the case of CashApp, so it goes with you wherever you go. And so we should be cognizant of the fact that hot wallets are less secure than some other wallet implementations. That's not to say that they're bad. I hold enough cryptocurrency in hot wallets to be useful, but we should be aware of the security limitations. And you're aware of how you secure your value every day, whether you keep your money in your wallet or in a bank account or in a safe somewhere. Okay, the second type of wallet that I'd like to talk about would be a hardware wallet or a cold storage wallet or a cold wallet. These are dedicated hardware devices. These devices are used to store the information that you need to transfer value on the blockchain. That is public keys and private keys. I'll talk a little bit about this at the end here. But this holds all that info for you. And if you wanted to transfer that value, you would have to plug this little guy in, right? And use a password to associate, and then you would sign the transaction with this little guy, send the transaction with this little guy, right? And so what you're actually doing is you're signing a transaction and transmitting it to the blockchain. And so in the case of, let's say, CashApp, you hit a little send button and it signs that transaction and submits it to the blockchain for you. In the case of something like this, you might actually be requested to sign the transaction. And what that's doing is the same thing. It's sending or transmitting that transaction to the blockchain, and then the blockchain is going to log that transaction and transfer that value. Okay, so there actually is a third solution, because you might be saying to yourself, well, I've got my hot wallet, I at least keep it with me everywhere, and I know where it is. What happens if I take this little guy and I put a bunch of value on here because I'm nervous, and I put it in a safe, but then I pull it out of the safe, and then I put it somewhere, and then it spontaneously combusts, right? Well, what happens then? Because this is the secure wallet that you had, right? Well, two things. One is there are other ways to recover your private key, because we understand that accidents do happen. One of those is known as a seed phrase. This is very common. You'll be provided a 12 or 24 word phrase that is used to rebuild that private key, were you to lose the hardware wallet or access to, let's say, an application that you were holding the private key on. This is called a seed phrase. Knowing and securing your seed phrase is extremely important. They will always tell you, never tell anyone your seed phrase. Keep your private key private. That's what they're telling you to do, right? Keep the key to your home private. If you lose the key to your home, someone can, right, come into your home. They're not going to steal your home, I suppose, and take it off of the block, right? But they are going to do something, malicious, and it is scary. Another solution would actually be to use a different type of wallet, which would be a multi-signature environment. They call this Multisig. This is the most complex and usually used to secure large quantities of value. And what this is, it's like having 3 keys required to launch a nuclear missile all at the same time, right? You need all 3 of those keys, or 2 of the 3, depending upon the multi-signature infrastructure, to submit that transaction. And so you might hold one of those keys here on a hardware wallet, you might hold one in a software wallet, and you might actually offload the responsibility of holding onto one of those keys to a third party. And so they have these third-party multi-signature implementations. I know it sounds a little complex, but they usually streamline the process pretty well. A great example of this would be something like Casa Hodl. So a quick technical discussion of public keys and private keys. Right, I said that public keys are meant to be public. They're your public street address. Private keys are meant to be kept private. In the cryptography world, we call this public key infrastructure, PKI. Right? And the public key infrastructure does more than just encrypt the transaction and sign the transaction. Well, actually, the signing part is the important part. So what the public key infrastructure allows you to do is say, hey, this private key is mine. It represents me. It authenticates me as me. It's like a username and password for you, except for it's significantly more secure and cryptographically very important. The other thing that it allows you to do is facilitate something called non-repudiation. And non-repudiation means that you can't dispute that you sent it, right? So there's some finality. That's probably the scariest part of these transactions is when you click send, right? The transaction, if accepted by the blockchain and included in a block, is final. So it's scary stuff. And so we need to be aware that that's how this works, right? You sign that transaction with your private key. This is why you need your private key. And that public key is representative of you in the world. And one last note, these public key, private key pairs are only valid for a blockchain that they work on, right? So for example, if you have a public address through CashApp for Bitcoin purchasing, and you have a private key, you do, even though you don't see it associated with that public address. You cannot use that public key, private key pair to send or receive value on another blockchain like Ethereum or Binance, the Binance Smart Chain, BNB. Those are completely different blockchains and they do not interact with one another. You need a new public key, private key pair to interact with Ethereum, to interact with Binance smart contracts. And so just be aware that do not send value from the Bitcoin blockchain to an Ethereum address or vice versa, because that will at a minimum be very annoying and at a maximum result in a loss of value. That is my quick discussion on cryptocurrency security, public key, private key, blockchain, and wallet types. If you have questions for me, leave them in the comments below. I will leave links to all of the products that I talked about in the show notes. And like and subscribe if you want more content, cybersecurity, blockchains, cryptocurrency, all that stuff. And as is always the case, engineer, break stuff, and have fun.